Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Felicia. I'm a Nigerian YouTuber based in Lagos. If you're new to my channel, thank you for clicking to watch this video. I create content around fashion, lifestyle, sewing and DIYs, and I vlog a lot nowadays. So you may want to stick around for that by clicking on the subscribe button and joining my family, okay? And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always supporting your girl and coming back to watch my videos. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to draft a basic bodice block. It's a great starting point for most patterns involving your top half, and it can be used to make tops and dresses, and paired with a sleeve block you can make shirts, blazers, jackets and coats with this particular pattern. The great thing about this pattern is it can be built up. Many patterns evolve from this block, so if you're ready to start making your own patterns, then a bodice block to your specific measurement is a great place to start. Although if you're looking for something easier, you may want to go back to my previous video where I have a skirt block. That's a great place to start for pattern drafting. Okay, so let's get into this video. Alright guys, let's get into this tutorial. These are the sets of measurements you'll be needing for your basic bodice block. The length measurements right here are your shoulder to bust measurements, your shoulder to under bust, your shoulder to half length front, and your shoulder to half length back. These four sets of measurements I just mentioned now are my length measurements, and the length measurements are usually not divided by anything because it's going from the top part of your body downward in a downward direction, so we do not need to divide any of these length measurements. Okay, so the next set of measurements now are my circumference measurements. The shoulder goes from one point to the other, so we're going to be dividing that by 2, and as you can see, mine is 7. The apex measurement is also going to be divided by 2 because that's what I'm going to be using for the darts, and the darts is usually gotten by measuring one nipple to the other nipple, so we're dividing that by 2 as well, and mine is 3.5. The bust measurement is 34 inches, and because it's a full body measurement round my body and my pattern is 1/4 of my full body, I'm going to be dividing that by 4, which I have 8.5, and I'm going to do the same thing for my under bust, which is 30 divided by 4, which I have is 7.5. My half length front with my natural waist is 29 inches, and dividing that by 4 as well, and I have 7.25. I'm going to be showing you what that is on the tape. Okay, and then the last measurement to be needing is the armhole measurement, and the armhole is 18 inches, and I'm dividing that by 2, and I'm going to be having 9 inches. So now for the pattern making, the very first thing we're going to be doing now is to mark all the length measurements. Okay, so from the top bit of the paper, I'm going to just use that as my guideline for my shoulder, and I'm going to be marking my shoulder measurements on that beginning. That's the starting point of my paper. Okay, so I've marked 7 inches right there, and I'm now going to go ahead and mark all the length measurements. My shoulder to bust measurement is 10 inches, and I'm going to just be marking on 2 points because I want to get a very straight line. Okay, so I just mark 2 points to get a straight line. My shoulder to under bust is 13 inches, and I'm marking 2 points so I can get a straight line as well. And then the last measurement for this is the shoulder to half length front, and I'm going to be marking 17 inches on 2 points as well to get a straight line. This pattern we're making right now is the front bodice block. So we're not going to be using the shoulder to half length back yet because we're working on the front piece. Okay, so now I'm just marking my points, and I'm going to be using a ruler to connect. The next thing to do is to label your lines so that you know exactly where you're applying your measurements. Okay, so I have my bust, my under bust, and my half length front. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to determine my chest line. Okay, and to get your chest line, all you have to do is to use your armhole measurement divided by 2, and mine is 9 inches, so I'm going on now to mark 9 inches, and I'm going to be drawing a straight line there, and I'll be labeling that line my chest. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to mark my shoulder line. So remember that my shoulder measurements right now is 7 inches. That's after it's been divided by 2. So I'm just marking 7 inches again because I want to have a straight line for the shoulder line. Okay, so right now I've marked my straight line, and then next thing I'm going to do right now is to apply my circumference measurement. Okay, my bust measurement is 8.5, and I'm going to be applying that on my chest line right there. And I'm now going to add ½ inch for ease. On the underbust line, I'll be applying the underbust measurement, which is 7.5, and that's that right there. And my half length front is 7.25. On my tape, this is what 7.25 is. So you have 7 inches, and then you count to describe that, but that's 7 1/4. And then I'm going to connect the dots from the chest point to the underbust down to the half length front. Once I'm done doing that, I'm going to now work on the darts. The dart starts from the bust line, so I'm going to be applying my apex measurement, which is 3.5 inches on the bust line. Okay, so I'm marking my 3.5 inches right there on the bust, and I'm going to also mark 3.5 inches on the half length front line, and I'll connect the 2 points together like so. Now the next thing to do is to mark ½ inch on both sides of this underbust, on the line of the dart on the underbust line. So I'm just marking ½ inch on both sides there, and I'm also going to be marking ½ inch on the half length front line on both sides. And now the next thing to do is to connect the points to the bust, so just as I'm doing right now. So next thing to do is to transfer the darts. Okay, now we've taken out 1 inch on the main bodice, so we have to replace that 1 inch so as to avoid our fabric being shorter than it's meant to be. So we're just going to replace that 1 inch on the right side of this pattern. Okay, and we are replacing the 1 inch on the underbust and on the half length front, because that's where the 1 inch was taken from. And then the next thing to do is to connect the points back to the chest point, like I'm doing now. Okay, yeah, so we're now going to go ahead to do the armhole curve. On this shoulder line, I'm going to be coming down 1 inch from the beginning of my shoulder line, so 1 inch downward. I mark 1 inch right there, and I'm going to be using a curved ruler, and then I'm going to connect the 2 points to from my chest point to the shoulder point. I just came down 1 inch. Once I'm done with that, now I'm going to now mark my neck line. So the standard measurement for a neckline is 3 by 3 inches. That's 3 inches wide and 3 inches in length, but right now I'm just marking 3 inch wide, and I'm going to be using 3.5 inches instead of 3 inch because I don't want it to be a very high neck. So right now at this point, you may want to decide the kind of neckline you're going to be using, but because this is a basic block, I'm just going to be doing the good old round neck. Okay, so those on that point on the wideness of my neckline, I just came down ½ inch right there, and I connected it to the 1 inch on the other side on the shoulder line. That says that's my shoulder slope. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is to use my curve ruler to just curve my neckline, so from that point at the top downwards. The next thing to do is to mark the front waistline. On the half length front line, I'm going to be coming up ½ inch on the side of my pattern, and I'm going to be connecting that ½ inch to the end of the dart. The reason I'm doing this is because the waistline isn't totally straight, so that's how the front waistline is going to be. Okay, so now I'm just going to be cutting out this pattern, and then I'm going to do one last thing. So now I'm going to be creating my darts for my bust. Okay, so what I need to do now is to create a ½ inch box from the starting point of my bust dart. So right now I'm just marking ½ inch all around to create that box, and I'm going to use my ruler to connect from one point to this other point right here all the way to the armhole, just like this. And then I'm going to mark ½ inch on this line I just marked now on the armhole area, ½ inch on both sides, and I'm going to now connect it to the point. Once I've done this, I'm going to now go ahead and transfer that armhole dart to the bust area. So all I need to do is to mark 3 inches from the chest line downwards, and then connect a line all the way to the bust point. So this new line here now serves as my bust dart. In the process of cutting this top or dress or whatever we're going to be using this for, you would see how I'm going to be able to transfer that armhole dart into the bust dart. Okay, so now I'm going to be working on the back bodice block. I have already gone ahead to mark all the length lines, and in this one in particular, I have already marked the shoulder to the half length back as well. So I have 4 lines, unlike in the front one which I had just had the 3 lines. Okay, so here we're going to be using the half length back measurements. So right now I'm going to just mark my chest line like I did as well for the front bodice, and connect my line. And then I'm still also going to mark my shoulder line as well, just as I did the front. So the next thing I'm going to do is still do the same thing I did with the front. Mark my bust measurement and the ½ inch ease, mark my under bust measurement, and also mark my half length front measurement, and connect the points just as I did with the front bodice. So for the back dart, I'm just going to be marking my dart measurement to 3.5. But for this back dart, I'm not going to be using 1 inch. I'm going to be using only ½ inch. So I'm going to be using ½ inch measurement on one side of this line, and I'm going to just connect the points. So now this ½ inch, I'm just going to transfer it to the side as well. The front dart is 1 inch, while the back one is just going to be ½ inch. Now I'm still going to do the same thing that I did with the front for the shoulder slope and for the neckline. Okay, so I just marked 1 inch again on the top of the shoulder line and connected it to the chest point. To make this shoulder slope, I'm just going to mark my 3 inches wide for my neck, mark ½ inch on that point, and then connect my shoulder slope. Now the back neck is usually a standard of 3 by 1 inches, but I use 3 by 1.5 inches for this pattern. So right now I'm just connecting the 2 points to mark my back neckline. The next thing I'm going to go on to do now is the back waistline. The back waistline is 1 inch higher than the front waistline, so I'm just marking 1 inch on top of the half length front line up to the dart point, and I'm just going to mark that straight line right there. And then on the side of the half length front line, I'm just going to come up ½ inch as I did with the front, and then connect the 1 inch I just came up to that point. So this new line I just marked here right now serves as my back waistline. Okay, so for the half length back line, we need that to do the zip dart. So I've just moved in 1 inch from the half length back line, and I'm connecting it to the neck line just as I'm doing right now. And I'm also going to connect the rest point, slanting it outwards. So this is it for the back bodice, and I'm now just going to cut out my back bodice pattern. Okay, so this brings us to the end of this tutorial, guys. If you really learned something new and you enjoyed this tutorial, let me know in the comment section. Ask me questions if you like that, and also if you have any requests for tutorials you would like to see on this channel, please do well to send me a comment. Okay, I'll be willing to get those. And I'm hoping to be doing a tutorial on how to make a corset. I don't know if you're interested in seeing that. Also let me know in the comment section so I can be motivated to bring that tutorial up here. Okay, so just let me know if you would like to know how to make a corset, and I will be back with a tutorial. Yeah, so the more requests I get for that corset, the more I'll be ginger to do it. Okay, all right, so I'm going to be leaving a picture of the corset on my screen after this video, so that you see what I mean. Okay, so if you like to get that tutorial, just let me know in the comment section and I'll be back to do it. Until then, stay fabulous and I'll see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye guys.